Hi, my name is Matthew, and I am from Isuto Technology Solutions. This presentation is going to give you an overview of Microsoft Office 365, along with the components of what Office 365 is. The presentation is going to cover. There's going to be two parts to this. One is an overview, and the second half we're going to go into more detail of how you would do, let's say, collaboration and sharing using Teams, because a lot of people right now is probably using Teams to do their chat and other, sharing of information besides the using email, right? In our company's Isuto Technology Solutions, we're a Microsoft partner here in the Bay Area, so we help people, migrate to Office 365 from Google, from other platform, and then we train them how to use it, and we provide ongoing support for them. So today, I'm going to discuss, this is the part one, is to go over an introduction to Office 365, give you a comparison of what Office 365 is to Google Suite. I believe many of you came from Google, right? You guys were using Google for a long time? Okay. And then that way you can see the comparison side by side, what product is on Office 365 to Google. Give you an overview of what Office 365 web apps, the desktop Office suite, the difference between the web and the desktop app. And then if you haven't installed the Office 365, show you how to download and install it on your local computer or your mobile device. And then we go into Q&A. All right, Office 365. So Office 365 is very similar to Google Suite. It's an online component, but it also has an offline component that you can install using the Microsoft Office Suite. Many of you may have used Outlook already, and you normally install that on your local PC or mobile device, right? So that's one of the key difference, is that you can install the Microsoft Office Suite, and then you connect that to their Exchange email server instead of Google. One of the other things is the online file storage, OneDrive and SharePoint. If you use any Google Drive, it's similar to that, or Dropbox, if you guys use Dropbox. So this is a equivalent product to that. And the next part is the group communication, which is the chat, web meeting, and screen share based on Microsoft Teams. So we'll go into more detail. And if you are into, let's say, design and project management, we have Visio and Microsoft Projects. And the component part, which is the mobile device, if you use it on your smartphone or tablet. If you guys are checking emails or using Teams, you can do that on your mobile device. Okay, what I want to do next is just give you an introduction video.
With a subscription to Office 365, you can get the latest version of Office, extra OneDrive storage, plus Office mobile apps so you can get things done on just about any device. Here's how it works. For a low monthly or yearly cost, you get the latest version of Office apps to install on your PC or Mac, and you'll continue to get new updates. Everything from small tweaks to brand new features. And because it works with all your devices, you can start creating on your PC or Mac, continue editing on your tablet, and then finish up on your phone. All this is possible because you can save your files to the cloud on OneDrive and get to them from anywhere. Store any type of file, including images, spreadsheets, presentations, and more. Office 365 comes with mobile versions of Office for all your devices. These mobile apps come with premium features that you can't get anywhere else. Think of Office 365 as your corner of the cloud. It's the Office you know and love, built for the modern world so you can use it from anywhere.
So the next slide is giving you a glance view of a comparison of what Office 365 is to Google Suite. So in here, most of you have used email components. You know, in Office 365 it's called Outlook, and Google is Gmail, right? And then as far as storage, you have a range of, you know, email storage, plus you had cloud storage component. So they're two separate parts. Email is separate from, let's say, your file sharing and file document management storage. Google, you know, have a word processing called Docs. Microsoft has Microsoft Word, and then you have PowerPoint for your presentation, Excel, Google Sheets. Majority of this is just, I just want to highlight it. If you have any specific questions, I can go in more detail. But the next thing we want to do is just give you a highlight of the major components which you use every day, which is the Microsoft Suite. And probably the next one we're going to go in more detail on the next presentation is the Microsoft Teams and OneDrive. So that's coming up on after we do the basic introduction. If you guys have any questions, let me know. One key difference that I want to highlight is the desktop version. So Google, you have to do everything online, whereas Microsoft, you have an offline or desktop version that you guys can install and work without the internet connection. So this is just giving you what I mentioned earlier. If you're a company like you guys been using Microsoft Office Suite, most companies will prefer to use Office 365 compared to Google. Another strong component is the security aspect on Office 365. It's a lot better integration and gives you more control in sharing documents and files compared to Google. And if you're using a PC, it has tighter integration compared to Google. So the key thing is that if a company's been using Google, you know, they work better with Chromebook and Mac OS, because Microsoft makes Office and it makes Windows, so they have a better integration between the two products. And then the last part is disk space, right? Because online, Google doesn't require a lot of disk space to use on your local PC. The next slide is the Office Suite, Office web app or Office Online. So when you log in, you'll see a list of, you know, Outlook Online, Word Online, Excel Online, and there's nothing to install. It's just if you were to compare this to Google, when you log into Google, it has the same aspect. So that way, if you don't have, let's say, your primary computer and you log on from home, this makes it easier for you to work. Here is when you log into office.com. This is what you'll see. I don't know, have you guys logged on to office.com, or is it mostly using your local? Have you guys logged on to this before? Okay, so the online version, if you go to office.com, put in your email address and you log in, you will see that you have, you know, Mail, OneDrive, Word, Excel. Along with that, you have SharePoint and Teams. So all that's available to you without having to have, you know, install on your local PC. And we'll go into a few more of that. The next part is the Office desktop. That's where you download. Let me just go back one slide. If you, let's say you want to install, this is the desktop version. If you clicked on this, you can download all these products to your local PC or Mac, and that's what we call the Microsoft Office Pro Plus or the desktop app. Most of it is included with the following plan. So as long as you have the Microsoft Office plan Business, Business Premium, Enterprise, E3 and E5, it comes with the Office desktop app. Otherwise, you can only use the online version. So the difference here between the two products, the web app and the desktop app, most of the key things is there's certain file format that it's not compatible on the online version. If you created the document, let's say in your desktop version, and you have a lot of formatting, sometimes it doesn't support some of the formatting online. But if it's just a basic document, it'll look exactly the same. The other thing is that if, let's say, a document or Excel file is password encrypted, you can't open that when you open it in the web version. It's not supported. And lastly, if I don't know if you work with macros, it won't work on the online version. The macro has to be on a local version.
Only, is that right? Ever. Macros will not ever work online.
A lot of the macros won't work. It's just because it uses, let's say, visual, all the component in the OS.
Okay.
That's the reason why. And macro sometimes doesn't even work on a Mac either. That's the introduction. So do you guys have other questions? Okay, so the part 2 of our presentation covers I think one of the products that are new or you guys may not be familiar with as much is Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive, because those are the collaboration tools that a lot of people use today on top of email, right? So we'll go over what is Microsoft Teams, the different ways you can log on using the desktop app, the web app, and your mobile app of Microsoft Teams, doing group chat, file sharing, meetings, doing meetings and sharing your PC with each other. Let's say you want to share your screen, you can share with a colleague, and I'll go into doing a demo of how Microsoft Teams will work. The next part is, what OneDrive is, the difference between OneDrive for Business versus SharePoint Online, sharing files with OneDrive, and if you want to share, let's say, files with an external colleagues or a customer, a demo of OneDrive, and then going into the difference, how OneDrive and SharePoint integrates with other apps such as, your Word, Excel. And if you use other third-party apps such as Adobe Sign, it'll integrate with that as well. And then we'll take Q&A. Yes.
Certain file size you can OneDrive?
Yes.
Are you limited to how big the file is?
So,
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, what is the limit of the file size for OneDrive? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, so it'll support most files unless you're trying to upload something above 15 gig. So if the file's over 15 gigs, it's usually you have to maybe do special requirement to work with the IT department to be able to upload it. Yeah, but most like documents, if you're using like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, it shouldn't be a problem. But if you're doing like, let's say, video editing, and you're trying to upload something large, that could take a while. Did that answer your question? So what is Office 365 Teams? So Teams is, if you're familiar with instant messaging, right? Yahoo messaging or Google Hangouts, this is very similar to that. The idea though is Teams is built around Office 365. So they call it like a hub to work together. And why that's important is it's integrated with your documents and Outlook for meetings and stuff, it's all together. So we'll go into that more detail. The other component is that Teams is built for you to tailor to different departments. So you can create what we call channels. Each channel is tailored to each department. Let's say you have a sales department, operations, or marketing. You guys can create a team group in there and you can collaborate within each other. The last part is security. That's probably one of the big things why Microsoft put in a lot of enterprise security to do, let's say, archiving, to do two-factor authentication, to ensure that when people log on, they are not being hacked. So this is a picture of Team. Like Team is what Microsoft calls a group chat, right? And in this picture, you can see a picture of a discussion. This is like a laptop, and then you have a mobile device. They all mirror each other. So when you work on it, it looks like if you work at you were doing communication with Teams on your desktop at work, but you step out of the office, it's also available on your mobile device. You can have, a private chat for small group conversation, one-on-one, or you can have what they call a public discussion in a team channel. One of the nice things is that the conversation or chat is searchable. So if you're looking for a discussion that somebody had regarding a particular topic, you can just type in the keywords and it can search for that, and you can find whatever your team member is available to access. Right here, you see at the top, there's a search button. You just type that in and you'll be able to find, let's say, I don't know, a sales discussion or a project that you're working on. You can search for that. Microsoft Teams is pretty easy. So when you open up, you want to start a discussion, you just click on chat and you type in the person's name. And the person's name is usually it will show all the people who are part of your organization. If you just know their first name, you just type it in, you click on them, you start a conversation with them. So the next part is they call a hub for teamwork, right? And the reason why Microsoft called that is because you have access to everything that the tool has, such as chat, the content, the files. It's all built into the Teams. In fact, most people are starting to use Teams more than, in some cases, Outlook, because they can stay in active discussion with their peers. Whereas email, sometimes you have to, wait back and forth. Now you have instant communication, and you can share files and documents from OneDrive. You can schedule meetings within Teams, and you can have access to your Outlook calendar within Teams. So this is the part that we mentioned earlier. It customized to each team. So that means that each department can have their own discussion group. And you guys can, talk about, you can subscribe to that. You can share files. Security. I think one of the big things that Microsoft has put in terms of security is making sure that if there's compliance, they can do what they call legal hold. Some companies requires them to have legal compliance to make sure that the content they have in discussion are not deleted. Even if they are deleted, it's still searchable to the company. The last part I want to mention was the two-factor or multi-factor authentication. This is very important if you are working from multiple locations and accessing your, Microsoft Office from different devices or mobile phone, because you heard about how email impersonation or spoofing where somebody clicks on something and they ask you to enter your password, and someone else gets a hold of your account, and now they log in using your password pretending to be you. And that's the reason why this security feature of multi-factor authentication is very important. Here is about sharing files, right? Oftentimes you may be working on a document and you want to share that with your colleagues. And I'm going to go into more detail of that. If you want to share files during a conversation, it's very easy to do that. So I'm going to go into, this is how you can start it, but let me just show you a screenshot of what sharing a file looks like in Teams. So here I'm having a discussion. If I uploaded this file and I can have a discussion, I can edit this document with someone within Teams. So the people who are in this discussion group will be able to see my document. And this document is available in later on. If you just click on this file tab here, you'll see anything is associated with that conversation stays within there. It makes it easier for you to find documents, or it makes it easier if somebody later on wants to look up some information in the past. Have you guys used any of these features yet? No? Waiting. Okay, is everybody set up with Teams? Have you guys are you guys all set up with Teams and logged into Teams before? Yes? You only use the chat. Okay. Yeah. You can use chat. I think the other thing is you guys can have, this is the next part I want to show you is you want to share your screen with each other. If you are, let's say you're working on a presentation or a proposal and you want to share stuff with each other, you can share your screen. So I can share my screen with someone else in the company. I click on here to start sharing my screen. And they'll be prompted to say, hey, this person wants to share the screen with you. Do you want to accept? And it'll get prompted something like this. So this person, you have to accept their screen share. And then now you can see each other's screen and work together. Okay. This is like, the next thing is you want to do a video chat. Let's say you want to meet with someone instead of meeting in person, you can have also a video conference with each other. So in this case, like I want to meet with Don, I can click on this discussion and it'll bring up a video and my webcam will show up and you can have a discussion with them.
What happened is that person, one time I accept him to share with me, then it's every time he wants to share with me that has to go through, or he has to ask me my permission every day?
He has to ask permission. Once you in that discussion or the video web meeting with them, it ends that session.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow he may probably have a different idea. So I have to accept him, and so once I give him a green light, he just go through.
Okay, let me repeat your question for the web people who are listening on this. So the question is, when there is a request to do a screen share, or let's say a web meeting, do they have to do that each time, or will it automatically get accepted the next time they want to meet again? Is that correct? So the meeting is a one-time only. Once you start and end the conversation, that session is closed. The next time they want to meet again or they want to do a screen share, you have to send an invite again. So it's just like your friends coming to your house, right? Yeah. So it's only one time. So as far as security-wise, it'll stop that. It's not, your PC is not going to continue to be shared with anybody else.
I have one. I've used that screen thing. What I was wanting to know was, is it possible, let's say something is wrong with the system on the other end, and I want to go in there and do some fiddling around.
Okay.
I noticed I've done it a couple of times. Both times I wasn't able to enter in a password on their system. Is that something has to be set up by an administrator or something like that to give me full control?
So your question is, you want to be able to use Teams to log into another PC to help troubleshoot?
Yeah.
Okay. In order to troubleshoot, you both have to initiate the session. You can't do it if the other person is not there.
Well, I understand that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I noticed that I can go into the apps, I can manipulate the apps, okay. But when it comes to putting in passwords or putting in some text into various fields,
Yes.
I'm not able to do that.
Correct. So it's when you're entering a password or it's prompting you to do something,
Right.
for security reason, the local person has to prompt and allow them.
Okay.
So that's the thing for troubleshooting. I don't think it wasn't designed for, let's say, troubleshooting and entering somebody's password. And it's for the same reason they don't want somebody to log in to change someone else's password when they're not there.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, okay. But is the ability to do that? That's not in this thing, right? You can't can an administrator, as it were, allow you to do that?
It's part of built-in security to Windows.
Okay.
They try to block it.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so this page here is in order to use Teams, here are the supported, like if you're using a browser, it works on Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, and they say it's coming. And then if you're using the desktop version, it's supported on most people are probably using Windows 10 now and the Mac OS. And if you have, let's say, a mobile device, you may be using an Android or an iPhone. And most of the app, if you just go to the mobile store or the Play Store, an iTunes store or a Play Store, you can search for Teams, you can download it. So the next page I want to do is a demo of Microsoft Teams. Do you guys have any specific things? So I'm going to just show you how I'm going to go to my web version of Teams. So teams.microsoft.com allows me to log on.
How about we don't have external people? It's pretty straightforward to communicate internally, but when we need to include an external person.
Yes, so if you're trying to chat with an external, a couple of things you have to keep in mind is they do have to have either Microsoft account, like a Microsoft, the Office 365 account, or they have to have a live account, the free version of Microsoft. And your IT department also have to allow you to communicate with external people. They have to set that up. For security reason, they don't just allow you to be communicating and sending files externally or sharing stuff. That's default is they don't want information going out to the department or the company.
Teams is really for an internal intercompany.
You can communicate with external vendor.
Right.
Because we communicate with some of our consultants outside our organization. You can set that up.
But it is an administrative setup that has to be allowed.
That's correct. So let me just repeat the question. So the question is, how do you allow external people to communicate? And it is possible to do that as long as your IT department configures Office 365 to allow external users to work with. Did that answer your question?
What's the name of that free? You said something about Office 365 that's free that you have to have if you want to talk to somebody.
So Microsoft offers a free version of their account called Live, Microsoft Live. You can sign up to at Outlook.com or Microsoft Live. Most people who wants, let's say, a free Microsoft email account, if you're familiar with Hotmail, does anybody here use Hotmail before?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same thing. If you have a Hotmail account, you can use that. So Microsoft owned Hotmail, but now they call it, Microsoft Live or Microsoft Outlook.com. It's the free version of similar to Gmail, the free version of Gmail. Microsoft has their own version of a free email account called Outlook.com.
How about Outlook.com? You can use that too?
Yes, if you have Outlook.com. So Outlook.com is a free personal email account that Microsoft provides. Okay. So in this chat, for example, I have a chat conversation with Gary here, and so if I want to share something with him, I can click on this. I can upload it from my OneDrive or upload it from my PC. So if I want to upload it from my computer, I do something like this, right? I can share this document with him. Now he's able to see the files as well. If this document, like if it's editable, right? This is an image, so it's probably a lot harder to edit, but you can edit and make changes if it's like, let's say, Microsoft Office, Excel, or Microsoft Word file. And the file will stay in this conversation with me and Gary.
Okay, so if you share it, say it's a PowerPoint,
Uh-huh.
image, and so how do you look at it at the same time?
So you can share during that time right here. Okay, let's say if I want to share a PowerPoint. My desktop. Oh, I'm doing it from Teams, so. So I'm uploading this PowerPoint file. Once it's uploaded, you can edit and share this. Oh, sorry, didn't send it yet. So after I send it, you see how I can edit in Teams? I can open it, and we can work on it, and then he can see what's happening. So after I upload, I have to send the file. Otherwise, only on my PC. So you click on this to send it. So Gary, you're able to see it, right? Yeah, see. So he can see it. I can see my files, and then we can both now, if you have something to work on, you click on it. You can open it in your browser, which is, if I open it in my browser, right, it'll go to the PowerPoint online. This is the PowerPoint that we were going over. So I just share it now. You can see stuff. You can make changes to it. And let's say I want to have a conversation or comment. You can add comments and discussion with whoever is in that group. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Other things is like we mentioned about calendars. If you click on here, right, this is my calendar, and this calendar is synced to my Outlook. So my team calendar is synced up and upload everything that's here. So you can see, you can schedule new appointments in here. We also, I think I forgot to mention was, we talked about having, if you want to have a meeting and do other things, you can also have a meeting with Gary. You can do all that within Teams without having to leave your desktop. I mean, without having to, exit, get into Outlook to do other things. If you want to, like, for example, earlier, you asked about communicating with an external. This is like we created a team channel. For example, we have discussion with different groups within that organization. So each customers that we work with, we have a discussion regarding that. Now it's specific only to them. Here, I have a conversation with an external team member. Like, for example, Daryl here is not within our organization. He's an external. You see how his email address is a third party. So I'm having a discussion with him.
So because you can have a discussion with him, you can call him and have all the team function and have a meeting with him.
Yeah.
Teams.
Mm-hmm. As long as you have to properly allow him to communicate.
Right. And right now ours is not allowed to.
Yeah, so you just consult with the IT department and say, hey, we want to be able to work with external people. So right now, this is what we did. We set up this so that I can communicate because he helps us out.
It's marked as a guest.
Yes, and you see how it tells you it says guest. So it's not to be confused with an internal employee.
Okay. And is it all or nothing? When you set it up, is it you get everybody external that hasn't done other teams, or can you choose channels or certain groups?
I think you can choose channels and groups to focus what they can communicate with, because a lot of this stuff is very customizable and it can make it inconvenient because of all the security that they put in around it. But for that reason, companies don't want you to be sending stuff externally by accident. I mentioned earlier about the search function. So if I'm searching for a particular company, look, I can search and it shows a lot of my discussion related to this company called Sensory. So now I can click on it, I can see what was discussed at that time. So it'll go and pull up the conversation at that time. Yeah. I'm going to continue with the presentation unless you guys have any other questions. Okay. Next is the OneDrive and SharePoint. Okay. So what is OneDrive for Business and SharePoint? OneDrive and SharePoint is your cloud storage. Currently, if you're familiar with, I don't know, if you guys have a network server, you have a file server. You guys use a file server at all?
Yeah, we're file server, yeah.
You do have a file server,
Yeah.
right? So if you're familiar with a file server, you usually have like a company share folder on the network drive,
Right.
and you also have maybe a personal home folder.
Yes.
Think of SharePoint as your company share folder, okay? So if you have, let's say, a corporate share document, you put it all on there. And then this OneDrive is for you to store your personal stuff. Anything that is confidential to you or only access to the employee. You may have a home folder on a network file share.
How do you go in there after you store and then can you go back and there to remodify?
So the question is, if you save stuff on OneDrive, can you modify the files?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. And I'll do a demo of that. after this. But the idea is, once you upload a file into OneDrive, you can access it, you make changes to it, and then whether you do it at home or you do it in the office, that file goes and stays online with you. If you switch from one computer to the next, that file is available to you, whatever changes you made. One of the things is that I want to distinguish, so SharePoint Online is designed so that it's another term for it called internet site. So when you log on, it's like a company web share and also a company file storage. They can see all your documents, all your folders and everything on there. It's locked down through permission, so depending on the company, let's say the company will restrict who can access what folders and file share, just like your network file share. One of the key things is the they call it document library. They do have a limit of 5,000 folders and documents per folder. So when you upload a lot of files, just keep that in mind. Earlier, I mentioned about how we use Teams and you upload those files and documents. You need SharePoint Online in order to upload those files. So the SharePoint is a required component for you to share documents and files. Same thing with your OneDrive. Both SharePoint and OneDrive, they are a subset of each other. Just like you use your file like on Google Drive, right? It's similar to that.
So can SharePoint, can that run off your local drive like Teams can?
Yes, so I'll show you that to demo how SharePoint can be accessed.
Hold on. My team is asking if they're going into more details about access control in SharePoint.
Okay. So one of the questions to the chat was about controlling access permission in SharePoint. A lot of it will be set up when you create a SharePoint site. And doing that is usually managed by the IT department or the department manager who says, okay, I'm allowed to access which employees or which group of employees are allowed to access what folders, what documents. It's very different from the OneDrive. OneDrive, you own that. Only you have access to it unless you plan to share it out to other people. So this OneDrive for Business is what they call a personal library. And if you're familiar with Dropbox or Google Drive, that's the same thing. The idea and the concept of file storage and file share is the same thing with OneDrive for Business. By default, the plan starts with 1 terabyte of cloud storage per each user. It goes up to 5 and to 10 terabyte depending on the plan you're in. So if you have enterprise, you're probably going to get 5 terabyte. Sharing files and folders, and then keep in mind if you have over 20,000 documents, you have to create a new folder. So you can't, let's say you have a folder, you can't be storing anything over 25,000, you need to create a new folder, otherwise it'll max out.
How big one document is supposed to be?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
How one document, how big it has to be? Limited the file, how much big?
The big range, so the question is, what is the maximum file size of a document?
Yeah.
Currently, I understand it's about 10 gig to 15 gigs. So this, far I know, it's about 10 gigs. So if you have create a file, a 10 gig file, usually that's probably a video document. A Word document is probably not going to get 10 gig. Most Word, Excel, PowerPoint will be small. So if you're doing a lot of video editing, images and stuff, that will take up, the file size a lot bigger. If you want to check how much storage you use, this is pretty easy. You log on, you click on the PC icon and manage storage. It'll show you how much space you're using on your account. This is the instruction on how to do it. Usually you'll get something like this. It'll tell you, hey, you have so much free of 1 terabyte. Like here, 1 terabyte of storage. I have a lot of space here available still. I didn't use a lot on my OneDrive.
So you mentioned before there about OneDrive per user, the capacity.
Yes.
What size is it? What is the size per person?
So the question is, how much storage does OneDrive allocate per person?
Yeah.
It's 1 terabyte is what it starts with.
Oh,
If you go to the enterprise plan, it goes up to 5 terabytes. And goes bigger depending so there's different plans within the enterprise at E3 and E5.
And any photos that you create in SharePoint, they go up to about 50 gigabyte or something, did you say?
So SharePoint is very different. SharePoint is the storage that's allocated to SharePoint is based on the organization and the type of plan. So for example, SharePoint is not designed to be allocated to an individual.
I understand that, yeah, but like if you had a file in the SharePoint folder, what size, how many files can you hold in there? Not so much from a storage point of view, but from a SharePoint view.
So the question is how many files, the total number of files within a SharePoint site?
Yes.
Okay, so earlier, I think, let me, if I can remember, I'm going to skip a few slides back to see if I can answer that question. The question again is how much can SharePoint site hold? How many files? So each folder library is 5,000 documents within that. Now, this number is constantly being updated as Microsoft come up with new release. So this number may change at the next time Microsoft comes out with a new release. SharePoint storage is allocated based on, they have 10 gig to start with, and then each employee gets 500 gigs. So each time you add a new employee, they allocate a SharePoint 500 gig per user. So if you have a lot of people, it's an aggregated storage for your SharePoint online.
And then it's usually scalable for larger companies.
Yeah, and you can add or purchase more storage if your company uses a lot. So sharing documents. Similar to how you share stuff within Teams, OneDrive is the same thing. Once you upload a document, by default, it's only private to the person who uploads it. Now, if you say, I want to share this to, let's say, another employee, that's easy enough to do. So I want to share it's private and you want to decide to share, you click on this and you decide what type of sharing. Let's say in this example, we want to share this folder called apps. And this is a OneDrive online. You click on share. Once you click that option, you will be presented with, okay, I'll go into that next, but this is the desktop version. You click on the OneDrive, it opens this up, you open your folder, and I have this document that I want to share out, right? Now I click on my share. I'm presented with a couple of options. I can share with anyone. This is like if I want to share this to people outside my organization as well as inside. And one of the key things is make sure to be careful with this option, because confirm what your company guidelines and policy is about sharing document outside. You can put also an expiration date when you share, that share will expire. Usually it's like if you share for more than 30 days, it will expire that link so nobody can access it afterwards. Once you create this link, anyone who have access to that link will be able to open it. So that's why you have to be careful. If you share inside your organization, that's probably the most secure. People who have access to it already, meaning that you create a share and you just send them the link so that they can open it later. And if you have specific people you just want to forward the link to. So these are internal. This is external. So again, earlier you asked about sharing stuff outside. If you just want to share a single file with somebody, they do not have to have an account. But if you want to share, let's say, a folder, because a folder have multiple files, they have to have a Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft Live account. You can go to Outlook.com and create an account for them.
So for single file sharing, you don't need a Microsoft Live.
Correct. They can have a Gmail account.
Yeah, okay.
Because it just gives them a link. But if you start sharing an entire folder, Microsoft requires them to have, whether it's an external organization who has Office 365 or a company who has a Microsoft Free Live account, they have to have one.
Let's see.
A Google Gmail account will not work. Okay, so the next one is I want to do a demo, a OneDrive. So everybody have any questions so far about OneDrive? Have you guys used it much? No? Okay, well, today's the day you can start using it. Okay, so here I'm on my Mac. I'm going to go to my OneDrive. So as you can see, I have my OneDrive. I'm going to open up. I have documents here. You see how it has the picture of the cloud next to it? The nice thing is when I upload all these documents, I don't have to save it on my local drive. It allows me to just put a shortcut to my OneDrive files. So basically, if I want to open this document, right? Let's say I want to open this up. It will download that on demand from OneDrive, so that it'll then save it to my local file to start working on it. And the reason why this is important is imagine you have a lot of files on your OneDrive and you don't have a lot of disk space on your local PC. It'll use up all the local disk space if you download everything. But on the other hand, if you want this to be available to you all the time, you can click on keep it on this device. An example where this is important is, let's say you're going to be working in an area where you may not have internet connection, or you're going to be going on an airplane. You want to work on a PowerPoint presentation while you're on a plane. You want to keep this on your local device. if you want to share this document out, you click on the share feature. See, by default, I can share with, okay, since Gary is here, it's easier for me to share and demo to Gary. So I can click on Gary, it pops up the name. I can add a message. Send him an email. So now he has access to that file. Does that look pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward. If you're sharing a document with somebody, you know, like oftentimes, you're not actually sending them the file, you're sending them a link to the file. Instead of, often people are concerned about, hey, how come I can't send this attachment out in the past? It's too large to receive. Here, you're just sending a shortcut to that file. And when they receive it, they get a link to download that file to their local computer. Yes.
Your example you just gave to keep it on this device.
Mm-hmm.
So the other way is you just save it on your local drive, right? But then it doesn't sync up when you're back online.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. So in my example, these files are already uploaded to my OneDrive.
Yeah.
In order for you to share anything, you have to have the file already onto OneDrive.
My question is about always keep it on this device.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to work on it on an airplane.
Okay.
Right? So it appears to be saved on OneDrive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you choose to save it on your unit desktop only,
yeah,
it just saves locally.
So the question is, if I were to click on keep on this device.
Yeah.
Yep. So what that will do is it'll keep a copy of the entire document. It will download it to my local computer.
And when you go to find that on your local computer, when you're on the airplane, you still go to your OneDrive?
Yes, it'll save it there.
Okay.
And then the next time you get connected, it'll, okay, once you download it, it'll still stay onto your OneDrive. It just makes it available offline.
Okay.
And the next time you work on it, you make changes to it, you have internet connection, it's gonna try and upload that and sync it to your OneDrive online. The other option, you see how it says free up space. So if you downloaded something and you don't want to keep it anymore, you can click free up space. It'll just put a shortcut to it. So that will save it so that it just points a link to the OneDrive file. OneDrive, the other thing is if you're working on a SharePoint site, for example, you can also use OneDrive to sync document from your SharePoint. All the documents that the company share, it'll save stuff from your SharePoint site to your local computer so that you can access it. So the difference again is the SharePoint is the company shared documents and files, right? Not your personal. But you use OneDrive and you can sync all the SharePoint documents to your local PC. Like in this case, I have, shortcuts to all these documents that I need. If I double click on it, it'll either download the file to my local so I can open it and work on it.
I have a question.
Yes.
I use OneDrive. I have, my own personal computer at home.
Yes.
I have my own account. I have a different email. So I have that OneDrive, personal OneDrive. How do I make sure that it doesn't get connected with my work OneDrive?
Okay. So the question is, if you have a personal OneDrive account and you have a business OneDrive account, how to make sure that they don't get connected with each other. When you log on to OneDrive, it's based on your email address. Because your email address will allow you to designate which account is tied to that. So there are actually two things. The OneDrive personal account and the OneDrive for business, they're actually two separate systems. They don't share any commonality. If you try to enter your work email with your personal OneDrive, you won't be able to log on.
I'll show you something later.
Okay.
There's one file that is my personal file.
Uh-huh.
It showed up on my work one.
Oh, okay. Are you, okay, we can see that. Because Microsoft uses a lot of the OneDrive personal. It's a free account that you can sign up. If you have a Windows 10, usually you'll see there's an icon that says OneDrive. Don't confuse that with your work OneDrive. Okay. Sorry, earlier I was mentioning about the SharePoint. So for example, this is my SharePoint site, right? The easiest is maybe I can demo with you guys about the SharePoint site. Here's my SharePoint site for our tech library. So I click on the documents. These are all the files that are saved on there. This is all the SharePoint document that we proposed for a document library. If I want to make this available to me onto my OneDrive so that it has, you know, like it looks like if it's available in my file explorer, I just click on sync, and now I select, it'll open up my OneDrive and says, okay, make it available offline for me. If you're working, you know, if you need to work on a particular document, you can make that particular folder again available to you offline instead of having to be connected to the internet all the time. Okay, I'm going to continue. Sorry, where? Too many PowerPoint. So how does, the next part I'm going to talk about is there any questions through the chat, Gary? Anybody have questions? Okay, so the next thing I was going to talk about is how OneDrive and SharePoint Online integrates with other applications. When you're using the Microsoft Suite, you know, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you can save your documents to your OneDrive or to your SharePoint site. So that way you're able to access this from any place and makes it convenient so that it just looks like a network drive to your local PC. Right here, for example, you know, I have my SharePoint site now. If I don't have it, I can add it. And as you can see, I can add, and it gives me an option to add OneDrive for business, or this, I add this to my OneDrive personal account. That's most of the overall presentation. Do you guys have questions, or do you need me to show you like earlier how another demo of the OneDrive? Okay, maybe I can show you, like, let's say my PowerPoint right now, right? If I wanted to save this to my OneDrive account, save as, I can select to save it to other online location. And see how I can select my OneDrive? Now I can save my presentation on there and makes it available to me. If I go home and use another PC, I can just open that up and access and work on it. Do you guys use electronic signature like Adobe Sign or DocuSign? So if you use Adobe Sign, it integrates Office, you know, it will also integrate with third-party apps like that. If you have, like, say, Adobe DC or Acrobat, you can open your OneDrive or your SharePoint online through there as well. You can open a document that way. One of the key things why a lot of people are moving towards the the SharePoint online is probably one of my favorite thing is being able to search for stuff. When you move stuff to the online OneDrive, SharePoint, all your documents are indexed. And if I'm searching for stuff that are related that you upload into your library, it'll show up right there and makes it easier for you to find stuff.
And you have access to.
Yes.
It's SharePoint.
Yeah, and you have access to it. Let's say, like, for example, I'm searching for a keyword Windows Server 2016. Anything that is documents related to that, it'll show up to here. Any document that is associated with Windows 2016. And this makes it convenient if I want to, let's say I want to edit and work on this. I can download it, or I can open it in Word and start editing. Okay.
Same for Teams.
Other questions? Anybody?
How about SharePoint searching for different, because SharePoint is just a bunch of websites, we call it internal website pages. And if we want to search for somebody's page, because I know we have some going in Italy.
Yeah, it looks like he's finished now.
So a search, let's say we want to go look for some
Does he finish now?
information.
So the question is, how do you search for information on other SharePoint sites?
In SharePoint.
In SharePoint, yes. So SharePoint is an internet site, and there's different sites that you, when you log on to, that you get subscribed to. So the easiest for me is to probably show you guys when I log on to my SharePoint site, right? In general, so I log on to my SharePoint site.
This is like a home page.
Yes, this is my default homepage. Once I log on, I have frequently sites that I subscribe to, that I follow. So you may not follow everything. So the sites that you want to follow, it'll show up on here.
At your main homepage.
Yes, so I can start searching within my home page.
You can like staple your shortcuts or where you go most to that home page.
And then I can search on my SharePoint, on the main site. Now, if I'm looking for something, it's going to start searching for all the different sites in there. But if if it's like, a customer relation, a customer service or operation, it's probably quicker you go into that site and start searching. Did that
All those
answer?
other sites, you have to have access to those other sites. So
That's
show up on your
correct. You have to be, you have to have permissions to access those sites. Otherwise, you cannot be going in to search for a site that you don't have the ability to open.
Often a company will have an IT administrator, just like they would for a file server.
So does that help here? I mean, it shows, like here, I show all the different sites that I follow. You see I'm following these sites, right? You will probably have your own company site that you set up. And you can say, oh, well, you're in the sales department. You get subscribed to that and you have access to that information. You may be in the marketing group and then you have access to that. And you can see it shows like what's being updated within that group, recent activities and on that particular site. Do you guys have any other questions? Any questions through the group? Okay, so nobody else have questions then? Okay. If you have other questions, I'm available. I can take it offline, and otherwise, I don't want to keep everybody on this going. Okay. Yep. I'm gonna end the session then. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. All right. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.